Very occasionally, the soundtrack introduces drums, and I really like that.
Yeah, the soundtrack is great. It's one of those where you kind of forget about it for a bit and then you go, oh wait, no, it's the best. It's awesome.
It's it's arrived. It's come back again. Oh man, it's a handwritten note. Uh, it's like it's written directly into my journal, even though that absolutely can't be the case. It's hang on, is it my handwriting? It it looks like my handwriting. They've got a journal that you can write in yourself, and before I was streaming it, I was keeping notes in this journal because I'm me and I approach games weirdly. Wrote things like, swam out to Ireland today, nothing there. Did, however, see a shape through the trees on the side of the lake I did not intend to travel. May have been one of the deciduous trees. This is the point where I was interested in what the trees were. This was before all this stuff. Almost
Oh,
certainly was.
you were so naive back then.
Well, I was trying to navigate by the by the
Tre
by the trees.
Trees were your biggest concern and not glowing cats, and
Yeah,
this basically just being a lost prequel.
I am almost certain those bushes were not there when I went to sleep. I resolved to head west of course. I resolved to head west off course as I realised I'm nearer to the houses than I thought I was. Bushes very thick indeed here. Water, I made my way accidentally back to the previous lake again, this one with the small island. I checked the map and this is a good sign. Um, can either see a deer or one of those terrible cats some distance ahead. Unsure what my plan is. I have my bow, but not an expert. I believe it to be a deer. Certainly has hooves. I don't think the terrible cat had hooves. And now, we're talking about. As I noticed that the map said Olympia. I hadn't noticed it before that point, and before I thought the map didn't have any writing on it. Anyway, this looks a bit like my handwriting. It says, there was a little gratitude after the earthquake. We got an opportunity to help out, got a few people to move into the city. Then the Artoria Bridge collapsed, that's near where we are, and our borders exploded. We expanded north and east, we became a real metropolis, almost a rival to Portland. They got their beacon, but we never asked for one. It became a strange world, these immortals across the bridge with their city becoming taller and darker every day. We kept to ourselves, always proud to stay small. I saw the city shrink again as people moved to Columbia. Then Portland blocked up the bridge, made it a border of sorts. We lost our jobs to Mission Biotech. Those are the cat people. Lost some of our city to the military. Even the colleges started to evaporate. Less and less people wanting to attend university in a city without a beacon. I guess that would happen. Not much happening here. I got old and watched my friends escape to live their golden years forever. Our city became sleepy again. It feels like I'll go to sleep with it. My home will move on, then my body. God help us if the bridge even washes away. Then we'll all have to move east again.
Huh.
And our options here are beacons and mission. I can't tell whether or not this is from this side of the bridge or the other side of the bridge. I don't know enough about American geography. Where are you based?
I'm in Texas.
Did you move there for Gearbox, or is that where you've been all
I did.
along?
Yeah, I moved out of Arizona to Texas, and everything is a step up from Arizona, so I was happy to do it.
Is the weather nice? I'm from Britain, so that's what I care about in places.
Um, we have different definitions of what nice weather is. I imagine that you would look out on a sunny day that's a little bit warm and go, "Ah, what a nice day," and that is
Oh my
the
god.
opposite of what I
Oh
find.
my god. I've become stuck in the bridge. I've become wedged in a
Uh-oh.
in a gap.
Well, at least you can just starve to death. You can just keep sleeping until you starve to death, right?
I think I'm stuck. They have a there's a facility on my. I could do that. There's a facility in the menu, in settings. It says stuck, get unstuck, still stuck, load backup save, save ruined, delete save data. So
Oh no.
I'm just going to click stuck. See what happens. Oh, it just coordinate translated me to a slightly place just nearby. I guess I shouldn't go that way. It's very misty. So I'm going to follow the nearest beacon to Jamie. See if I can find out something about what's going on here. I feel much more certain of my location on this map than I did on the previous one.
Yeah, I never had any idea where I was on that first map.
Was that how did you feel about that with regard to you feeling disorientated or disoriented or whichever
Um,
the word is?
because I was still assuming that this was a game that wasn't really about making progress.
Hmm.
I kind of went, oh, okay. Like I only can feel angry and lost if there's something specific I'm trying to get to or get from.
Yeah.
Um, so I was like, oh, okay. Well, it's nice. It's shown me sort of this is basically where the boundaries of the world are, and this is where I can go to see pretty things. That's all. I thought
Yeah.
that's all it was telling me. It was that this variety of pretty thing is over here. You want to see a lake because those are pretty. Here's a lake.
Hey, want to see a lake? Want to see a lake? We got a lake here for you.
Yeah, that's what I thought the pitch of this game was.
Hey, you want a branching story about the medical industrial complex and potentially talking cats and superheroes, but in a way that's delivered simultaneously dead-facedly and deadpanly and charmingly? Great,
Yeah.
cool. Go this way. Um, this sort of feels almost comically like it was a game designed to appeal to me. I'm just sort of following this road north, following the beacon. Eamon says, when you click the tag for something in your journal, does it take you to the nearest glowing beacon that's related to it, or does it take you to the beacon that follows it chronologically? Good question. I'm gonna say it takes you to the nearest beacon that's related to it. I think each of the entries have a series of tags attached to them, and it just tells me where the nearest one is. I like the way that, in principle, kind of mechanically, this game is really pretty simple. But in terms of narrative ambition, it's phenomenally complicated. There are around 150 pieces of content, like journal things, in the game.
Good Lord.
It's a pretty staggering achievement, I think.
And again, the confidence and the sack it takes to do that and then not publicize that.
Yes.
Put forth all this effort and then go, yeah, I don't know, you could just not see it.
Yeah.
You could just not even know it exists.
It's a really, really, really cool move. I don't think I could. I don't know. I'm exhausted. I need to sleep. I met a seer, passing the hues and objects of the world, the fields of art and learning, pleasure, sense, to glean eidolons. I mean, I almost immediately relate that to Jamie and to the Senin, but I don't know if that's intentional or not. There's a big fallen skyscraper here. Oh, I'm walking past the river that I swam across. I also like the way that the world is clearly one in which there's been a lot of pain. There's been a lot of human pain in this world. But it doesn't feel outwardly threatening to the player. Just as
Yeah,
Gone Home at times radiates human unhappiness, as well as human happiness, without presenting a threat to the player at all. This game seems to be radiating kind of sadness and pain and despair without actually, putting the player in that place at all.
yeah, it kind of does. I think what is more admirable and is the opposite of what Gone Home did, which is I didn't care for the way that Gone Home was kind of okay with making you think that it might be a horror game for a lot of its running time. I thought that was like
Yeah.
kind of it split the attention in a way that I didn't find was cool. I think that this game does the exact opposite, is way more interesting.
The fact
That
that
it
this
kind
game
of-
straight doesn't even tell you what genre it is at all.
Or that it initially what it initially presents. Again, this could be pure conjecture, but it feels like it spawns more wolves or more dangerous things earlier in the game, or that they have a natural spawning point that is that at the beginning of the game. to sort of lull you into the sense of like, yep, this is a Minecrafty Daisy survival game, and then go, nope, this is actually this much more contemplative
Yeah.
sort of detective story. I think is really cool. It's like No Country for Old Men or something like that. I love it when you use the trappings or the assumed trappings of a genre to sort of trick the audience into having a
What would you say is
more
the trick
profound
in No
experience.
Country?
Making you think that it's a story about these. Oh, it's gonna be so fun when these two dudes fight each other, and it's gonna be really suspenseful and awesome. And then, nope, it's about the nature of and how life isn't perfect and doesn't, hold to these narrative structures that we hold up as exemplars of what life can and should be. That
Yeah.
everything's actually a lot messier. That he doesn't. The thing that happens to him doesn't happen to him at the hands of the person that it quote unquote should have. It's like these two nobodies that you never see again, and it happens off screen, and
Yeah.
which,
It's
which
a
is so much
really...
more profound than if it was just a movie that was from the get go about that kind of thing.
I read a really interesting piece on how the Coens tried to use traditional, old-fashioned horror movie shooting techniques when they were working with the character of Sugar,
Hmm.
to make him feel almost like, not like a Hammer horror, but almost like an early horror, or comparatively early horror style monster, which I
Oh
think
yeah, yeah.
was really interesting, and I think came off really well in the final
Oh yeah.
version.
There are moments in that movie where they very clearly inserted logical inconsistencies to make him feel more mysterious.
That whole
There
scene
are
in the hotel where he walks underneath, where you see his feet underneath the door, is one of the most tense sequences in film that I can
Oh
think
yeah.
of.
I love that one because it kind of calls to mind a thing that I think a lot of us had as kids, where it's like I'm in my bed, reading when I'm not supposed to be reading or doing something I'm not supposed to be doing, and I see, the feet of my parents or something like that go
Yes,
walk past the door, and I just see the light there, and it's just it got me right back into that childhood place of fear, which is
you sound
so
like Stephen Moffat last week.
yeah, yeah, except hopefully not as dumb.
Well, you're not fond of that episode.
There were elements of it that I liked. There were elements of it that I thought were really, really weird and basically either made no sense or were outright offensive to me.
I found a lot of Moffatisms came through in that episode in ways that were sometimes more overt than usual.
Yeah,
Um,
his weird like basically trying to turn the entire episode into one big magic trick where he's there's a thing, no there isn't,
yeah,
did it didn't work for me. I saw what he was trying to do and it just didn't pay off. I think it was him overly trying to be clever rather than tell a story, which is probably Moffat in a nutshell to me.
I think that that one scene in the I realize that a lot of this won't make any sense to people who've watched Doctor Who, but all you need to know is the monster in the most recent Doctor Who episode manifested in a particularly visually kind of cool scene, to me at least, where it was
Oh, yeah.
just it was a shape underneath a blanket. Not in the sense that it was a creepy moving shape underneath a blanket. It was just a shape underneath a blanket sitting on a bed and then standing in the middle of a room, which was an amazing image to me. I thought that was really evocative.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That was
and creepy.
weirdly the thing that yeah, and the effectiveness of that scene is weirdly what made me resent where that story ended up going all the more,
Yeah,
because they imply that that was like, I guess, just a kid being silly.
I don't know. You see, to me, I don't know whether or not I read that in a different way.
Hmm.
That I don't want to say in case people care about stupid spoilers for this sort of stuff. But
Yeah.
I think that was a monster. I think that was a monster.
Okay. I took the show has a habit of making whatever Clara says the correct thing, like with a capital C, and something she had said, I can't remember the specifics, had sort of implied to me that
No,
like
I could see that.
this
I
is
could
what
see
it
how that
is.
reading of it. Yeah, it could go both ways. I think. I think, to be honest, I kind of want to imagine that thing was a monster.
Yeah, because it was such an effective scene, it feels bad to have that like retroactively taken from you.
And also, I don't know. There was, I don't like. I don't like Moffat's dialogue. Oh, Bronze Snake says, "What is that green thing he's using?" And Umbrella says, "We're not entirely sure." It's it's kind of like a breadcrumb trail thing. It leads me to the nearest journal entry based around the theme of the button that I click. So if I click here, it'll take me to the nearest one to the fall. If I click here, it'll take me to the nearest one to Jamie. So I'm kind of following it to track where I need to go to find out more about this character. I don't generally like Moffat's dialogue, but there was an exchange in the episode that I thought was really, really powerful, just in terms of the way it put words together. Which it was something like, when the bed gets depressed, when the thing sits on the bed, Clara calls out from under the bed, "Is there something there?" And the kid says, "There's nobody there." And then she says, "Did somebody come in?" And the kid says, "Nobody came in." And then she crawls out from under the bed and there's this thing on it. And just those 4 lines together with the payoff of what you see afterwards, I think was a really nice piece of dialogue. For its kind of simplicity.
Yeah. I think when he is focusing on one thing in particular, like, I would like you to be scared about this particular thing, he can be incredible. I mean, like, as much as I don't like a lot of the stuff that Moffat has done, I can't pretend that Blink isn't like one of my favorite single episodes of a TV thing.
He's very good at monster design, I think, when he's at his best.
Yeah.
I thought the Silents weren't quite as good as he could have made them.
Yeah.
I can see the green
the
dot.
promise of them is basically identical to the promise of the Weeping Angels. This is kind of a bummer. It's like, oh, how do I beat these guys? You just keep looking at them.
Yeah.
You do the same thing.
Weeping Angels, for me, are an absolute worthy successor to the Daleks, though, in terms of creations of...
Absolutely.
Nobody cares about Doctor Who in the chat right now, probably.
Probably, yeah. These are all, like, classy people that came to watch you play a meditative game, and we're nerding the place up.
Yes. No, we've decided that our version of Doctor Who's just going to be us making out with David Tennant, right?
Yes, that is canon in our once we become the co-lead writers of Doctor Who.
It's going to be great.
Yes.
So the answer to this could be absolutely no, because I could understand it. But as a writer, have you ever dreamt up what your dream Doctor Who monster would be as an invention? As somebody who's watched the show in the past, have you ever thought, you know what, this is what I'd do?
Well, I've definitely dreamed up a lot of stuff, Doctor Who related things I would do, or stuff.
Other than kissing David Tennant.
Other than kissing David Tennant, occasionally I think about things that aren't kissing David Tennant. It's rare when it happens, but it does happen.
Okay, yes.
But I came to Doctor Who really late during the Russell T Davies kind of thing, and had no sort of cultural preconceptions about what the show was supposed to be. So the fact that the show
fell in a hole in the
it's
camera
always monsters all the time was a really nasty surprise to me. I thought that it was really a show about a guy going to all kinds of places and meeting all kinds of interesting people and all kinds of interesting things, and not running from differently shaped Daleks every single episode. So I had all these dreams about him just meeting people and sometimes being the villain in stories that barely involved him and da-da-da-da-da. And it's
essentially like an intergalactic time traveler would, rather than just always running into...
Yeah, like, say, the actual promise of that show's premise.
So it would have a kind of... So your field would have kind of a Monster of the Week style thing, in that it would be shaking itself up a lot. It's just... It wouldn't always be monster-focused?
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain aspect of, like, Neil Gaiman's short stories, or some of the stuff he did in, like, Sandman, that I really, really loved, where, like, Sandman is, technically about this group of people that kind of run existence and have different personalities and stuff, but functionally it is, like, especially as it went on and sort of found its voice, is about Neil Gaiman finding excuses to tell these really interesting, really quirky stories that are tangentially related to these characters, but they're basically just sort of, they're gussied up Rod Serlings from the Twilight Zone that kind of give us something to ground ourselves, but are basically like, hey, I did this research on this guy called the Emperor of the United States, and he's really interesting. How can I take him and recontextualize him?
Put him in a story.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was a really wonderful, very fairy tale-esque thing. For all the hullabaloo that this recent production team has said about, like, oh, we're trying to make Doctor Who feel like a fairy tale, they haven't,
No, they super haven't.
And Neil Gaiman is fantastic at doing fairy tale stuff. And the one TARDIS episode he did was great in terms of doing that. And then he did a kind of rubbish Cybermen episode that was disappointing.
I've always been vaguely disappointed by the Cybermen. I'm going to pick up this green dot. I didn't want to interrupt you talking eloquently about better Doctor Who's.
No, please do, because
it's
God, what a nerd.
Which Doctor? Who would you cast as the Doctor now? Who would you cast?
Idris Elba. No, I would cast. God, I can't remember her name. The girl from Broadchurch.
Olivia Colman.
Olivia Colman. I would cast Olivia Colman.
Olivia Colman's fantastic.
I love Olivia Colman.